Welcome, Minister Chinamasa. Tell us, what are you here for and how big is your delegation?
Thank you very much for this interview, for giving me this opportunity to be interviewed. I'm here with a delegation to attend the meetings of the World Bank and IMF. As you may know, Zimbabwe is a shareholder in both the IMF and the World Bank. And annually, they hold twice, and this is the spring meeting, they hold the meetings of shareholders. So I'm here to attend those meetings, and I have a delegation, maybe comprising about 5 or 6 people. I'm here with the governor of the central bank, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Manungo, and the director of our Zimbabwe Debt Management Office, Mr. Mafararikwa. So we are a couple, maybe up to 10, who are attending these spring meetings of the World Bank. But besides attending this meeting, on the sidelines of the meeting, my delegation will meet representatives of creditor nations, that is under the Paris Club. We will also have side meetings with the multilateral institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, as well as the African Development Bank, and possibly the European Investment Bank. And this is to advance the Lima strategy on payment of arrears. So we are going to have all those meetings. Additionally, I am going to have a meeting with the State Department. This is to make a plea to the State Department to lift sanctions.
On that, let me just come in on the issue of sanctions. What inroads have you made? We saw only a few weeks ago, a delegation coming from the US into Zimbabwe. Has that helped you in your plea to get the sanctions lifted?
Well, what I can only point out is that we are making efforts to advance our cause. But whether the sanctions get lifted or not is not within our power, but within the power of the American government and its authorities. But for us, we will continue knocking at the door of the Americans to lift the senseless sanctions imposed against Zimbabwe. And that is why we will be meeting not just the State Department, but also the Department of Treasury. And of course, as you are aware, last week, some US congressmen came to Zimbabwe, met our president, and I believe that the fact that they came to Zimbabwe, they left with a new insight into the new dispensation. The fact that we are promoting respect for human rights, we are promoting respect for freedoms, we are working very hard to ensure and promise that there will be free, fair, credible, violence-free elections. I think they saw that for themselves when they come. But whether that will produce a quick outcome, I don't know. But we will continue knocking at their door.
And Minister Chinamasa, you just pointed out there that Zimbabwe is open for business. What areas exactly are you looking at people that want to invest in Zimbabwe taking up? And also, you know, you have been meeting, I think, with other Zimbabweans in the diaspora. What has been the interest so far? Yeah,
let me first explain what we mean by Zimbabwe is open for business. So when our president states that Zimbabwe is open for business, what we are saying is that we are going to do everything in our power to create an environment in Zimbabwe which is conducive to investment for both domestic and foreign investors. And to do that, we are adopting a multi-pronged strategy. First, we are engaging those countries which impose sanctions against us. These are countries in the West. We are engaging them so that we can normalize political relations. We are also intensifying, as we are doing, engagement with a view to advancing the Lima process on clearance of our area, so as to open up the capital markets so that we can access capital in those markets. But coming specifically to your question, what areas are open for business?
Yes.
All areas. Mining, tourism, manufacturing, agriculture, infrastructure development. We are opening up investors to come into all sectors of the economy, including resuscitating and rehabilitating our infrastructure. We already have policies in place, basically to encourage, for instance, in the energy sector, we are encouraging independent power producers to come in. You don't need to be in partnership with the government. We are also saying, through the amendment of our indigenization law, removing the 51-49% threshold, which we have removed in all sectors except only on 2 minerals, diamonds and platinum. We are basically saying any investor can come to set up shop in Zimbabwe and they will own 100% of equity without any question. You don't need even to approach any minister to start your business. So basically the message we are putting out is that we are open for business in all sectors of the economy. You investors will be most welcome.
But some are saying maybe this is just lip service. How conducive is it for someone to just come into Zimbabwe as an investor and be able to open their business and start operating there and then?
Yes, we realize that sometimes we have certain procedures which may inhibit quick processing or quick processing of businesses which want to set up. And we are, with the help of the World Bank, we are addressing the ease of doing business. We are looking at our procedures, our processes, with a view to shortening the time frame. We are also in the process of setting up a one-stop investment center so that any investor, any who will be serious investor, can approach that center and be able to have all processes processed through that one-stop center. For instance, work permits, immigration, everything, any answers. And that one-stop center will be made up of representatives from various line ministries who are relevant to processing specific business applications.
And I asked before, what role is the diaspora that's scattered all over the world playing in reviving the Zimbabwean economy?
Well,
what role can they play?
Yes, they are playing a role, as you know, through diaspora remittances. Zimbabwe right now is a shortage of foreign currency. We are not making enough foreign currency to meet our developmental needs. And we are very grateful to the diasporans who sent remittances to support their families in Zimbabwe. So already that is a very critical role that diasporans are playing. But over and above that, I look forward into the future to diasporans coming home to contribute their skills, their managerial skills, technical skills, and also to help Zimbabwe access capital in the various countries where they are currently resident. Our biggest problem in Zimbabwe right now is access to lines of credit, access to capital, and diasporans can assist us in unlocking that capital for the development of Zimbabwe.
Talking about the development of Zimbabwe, we only heard last night that nurses who are on strike have been fired. What is the position as finance minister? What are you going to be doing to ensure that the country moves forward and that the workforce is paid?
Yeah, let me just give a narrative of the portion where I was involved when I was still home. About 2 weeks ago or so, doctors went on strike. And we spent sleepless nights trying to negotiate a package. As we were concluding the doctors' concerns, the nurses themselves came and also said they had concerns which must be met, otherwise they would go on strike. That is 2 weeks ago. So we went into another round of negotiations with the nurses, and we made responses to satisfy those concerns at that time. So I was surprised, just as I was leaving on Friday last week, to hear that the nurses again were raising new demands. And I felt very bad about it. I felt very disappointed because I felt that the new demands were, should I say, politically motivated. They did not desire anymore to address their concerns, which we had done so about 2 or so weeks ago. So what I don't know is what has happened since I left. You tell me they've been dismissed, but clearly I'm sure that the view was that they are politically motivated. Otherwise, for instance, they belong to an essential service. There is one sector in terms of our law who should not go on strike. Doctors and nurses, they should not go on strike. And I think the other essential service is probably firefighters. They should never go on strike. So by going on strike, even before they agree and allow the negotiation process to take place and conclude, was clearly in bad faith. But essentially what I wanted to point out here is that we sorted out their problems, their concerns about 2 weeks ago. So I don't know where these new demands are coming from and how, what is the motivation behind those new demands.
But are you going to re-engage with them or when you get back?
Clearly, that is an issue between the employer, and the employer is the Health Services Board and the nurses, not the Treasury. They only come to Treasury when they want more money. But otherwise, the employer is the Health Services Board, and I can't speak for them, more so when I'm out of the country. I don't know what has taken place since I left.
On that same note, talking about money, what about bonuses for civil servants? Where do they stand currently?
Yes, as you are aware, last year and through the budget, we made a commitment to honor the 2017 bonuses. And we committed ourselves to paying the 2017 bonus this year, but in a staggered form, starting, I think, from March and ending in August. And we are going to meet that commitment.
And maybe to just round off, Minister, there's been reports that the government is thinking of re-engaging youth officers. What is the situation regarding that?
Well, there is no such intention. Let me say that we took a decision to retrench some over 3,000 youth officers whose job description was not relevant to the development of the country. In fact, there had been overemployment in that area. We took a decision that they should be retrenched. But unfortunately, as it turns out, after they went to court, the court ruled, I believe, that the procedures had not been followed by the Public Service Commission. So it's for the Public Service Commission to follow the procedures. But the intention to retrench remains. But obviously, if the court says we must follow the procedures, we have to follow the procedures through to leading to their retrenchment.
You're here also in Washington at a time when Zimbabwe is actually celebrating 38 years of independence. What's your message on Independence Day? My
message today, which is the Independence Day, my message today is that Zimbabwe has enormous potential. We do not need any Zimbabwean to be poor. But in order to turn around the economic fortunes of our country, we need unity, we need hard work. And it's not an event, it's a process which will take a long time. So I want to say to the Zimbabweans, let's rally together behind our president, Comrade Mnangagwa, who has come up with a new focus to address the economic recovery of our country. Let's rally behind him and produce the results which our people deserve. That is a prosperous, democratic Zimbabwe. And we can do it, but for it to happen, we need to be a united country. Let's not waste time quarreling with each other. Let's not waste time being polarized, discussing and talking useless things which do not advance the cause of our country. What Zimbabwe needs right now is unity amongst all its people, hard work amongst all its people to turn around the economic fortunes of our country. And we can do it, but it will not be done overnight. And it will not be done through quarreling. It can only happen if we put our shoulders to the wheel and we work very hard for a very successful, prosperous Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.